Hello. Well, live again. There should be two of us. Cinnamon, you know him, Brandon, who emphasized Z, Generation Z technology. So he's in a time eddy at the moment, and he's working his hardest to get with us, and he might be with us in a second. So I'll bring him on as soon as I can. But just to remind everybody of the Bigenerates, just in case you forgot about us, here we go. So the Bigenerates today, I mean, the general title is, has Doctor Who declined since 2005? That was just a general question. We've got evidence, of course, and of course, the whole plot idea behind the Bigenerates is you've got two generations of Whovian fans, and of course, let's just test out whether we have different opinions. Because everybody says, you know, the modern audiences now, they're the younger ones, they're this, they're that. Okay, I'm a has-been, I'm a dinosaur, I'm a classic Doctor Who, apparently. But let's see what the younger generation think. And so Cinnamon comes on to represent that. We did this a while back, and with some terrible Photoshop in there, but let's just see if we can get Cinnamon on. Cinnamon, how are you? Oh no, just as I tried that, he disappeared again. So just while I'm doing that, if you're just discovering us on this live stream, you know, give us a sub if you like what you see. But in the meantime, I will get on with this because time eddies or anything don't matter to me. So what I will show you here is there was a Radio Times quick little YouTube film where this fan was asked questions about, is Doctor Who relevant in 2024? We will look at that and what we think. We will obviously mention what we think is going on this week. There's been plenty of announcements, and I'm not going to mess about. So let's start with the first announcement, since I'm the only one who can ask myself at the moment, which is, he was on last night, wasn't he? Russell T Davies was on the BBC One show last night with Stacey Solomon talking about clutter. But when he was on, you didn't learn anything new about the Doctor Who Christmas special, Joy to the World. There was nothing there that was new, except one thing, and I'll come to that any second now. So there you go. Now, and what he said was this. So let me just show you. Doctor Who showrunner Russell T Davies says next series is coming sooner than you think. Sooner than you think. Yeah? So we were half thinking, would it be May? Yeah? Would it be May? Is that when we should be expecting this? Yeah. Eurovision Song Contest, May the 17th, 2025. That was the expectation, since actually this year we had the Eurovision Song Contest, Devil's Card, Space Babies. Yeah. Now, there's a lot of strange thinking behind this, so let's just get straight into it as soon as I can, okay? So, take a look at this. This was a leak from ages ago on Gallifrey Brace by 12th Doctor Stan of Razalon. From the Disney leak, the only relevant information, Doctor Who is considered a low-budget series. Season 2 is going to be released on the 28th of March 2025, starting with one episode and the finale airing on the 16th of May 2025. Now, can I just say again, if that is true, that means it will be coinciding with the Eurovision at the end of it. So let's just see if I can get Cinnamon on again to get the two generations thinking at the same time. Oh, he's gone again. I keep trying. He's struggling. He's trying his best at the moment to get on. So let me get talking about this one. There is talk that actually Rylan, yeah, I know Rylan, who was in our was it the X Factor? He is a singer, and he's now a TV presenter celebrity, you'd call him. And the talk is that you've seen some photographs that he might be in one of the episodes of Doctor Who next year. And so, if this timing is correct, so I'll show it one more time. If this timing is correct, that it is coming sooner than we thought, and Doctor Who's season 2 does start on the 28th of March 2025, then there's thinking behind this that the Rylan episode, if Rylan is in it, one fan said, I believe season 2, episode 6 is some kind of music focused space concert, space Eurovision episode. This is the episode I'm expecting Rylan to guest star in. If they aired episode 1 on April the 12th, episode 6 will be May the 17th. So there's lots of different dates being toyed around here. So you've got 12th Dr. Stan thinking it would be earlier than April the 12th. And then one fan thinking if it starts on April the 12th, then it would coincide episode 6, a musical episode, with the Eurovision. There's a lot to think about there. There's a lot to worry about there. And I'm hoping Cinnamon, Cinnamon, are you there?
Goodness me, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
What an absolute disaster that was. I do apologise.
Sounds like it was a Middlesbrough Leeds scenario.
Let's not go there.
We're both Borough fans, so on the Bigenerates front, you'll get that as well. So just to keep you up to speed, I won't repeat everything, otherwise everybody watching will kind of go, what, really? We are the Bigenerates, two different generations of Doctor Who fan. Do we have one single thought, or do we disagree? We shall soon find out. So the first one on A Cab on the Rank, I just wanted to quickly get you. You didn't see the one show because you were at the match, but he did say Doctor Who is coming earlier and sooner than we think. And of course, there have been rumours it would start in March, as I was just showing everybody here. And if it starts in March, it might coincide its finish with the Eurovision. And of course, there's lots of gossip, Cinnamon, that Rylan will be in an episode. So it'll be a musical Eurovision, galactic Eurovision story. And Russell T Davies has promised us a musical. So, as a Generation Zedder, how do you feel about that?
Not good. Well, first and foremost, it is nice to be back on the channel again. I hope everyone's doing well. It's nice to see you. I hate the fact that there's little 2 boxed windows off to the side. I do normally have a laptop full screen, but yeah, technical issues today. But yeah, to get to the brunt of your question, no, that's not what Doctor Who is about. I'm quite. I think I've mentioned it before. I'm just a bit sick of the whole silliness. It needs to grow up. You know, Doctor Who's had silly moments, and that's fine. You can have your humour in, certainly. But I've been speaking to Brendan about this before, and I've been stewing over it a lot. Doctor Who needs to start taking itself seriously. And then by that, I don't just mean it needs to stop being silly and be more serious. I mean in terms of the rules that the show puts in place, it needs to respect them. Now, for all this talk, and I'm sorry if I'm going off on a tangent, but for all this talk about Doctor Who's canon is like an open book or anything goes, no, I've never really subscribed to that idea. Yeah, there's been fleeting moments. Okay, yeah, Mordrin Undead, you know, unit dating. There's a few little situations where you scratch your head. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a 61-year-old franchise with generational writers at this point. You've got to remember, a lot of the guys that were writing these stories from the 60s, they were, you know, middle-aged men in the 60s. And now we've got people who were children at that time now writing for the show. And so on and so on. You know, there is a generational divide there. So it's natural that on all those years that it isn't going to be plain sailing, and you are going to have those small continuity errors. But when you have the show change sort of its tone and its atmosphere, and I know we're going to get into it today with the trailers comparison, and you have one era that was so confident and cool and was confident about its own confidence, if that makes sense. And then you have this era where we're being told it's all about, oh, we need to be like Stranger Things and we need to be like this Star Wars show and we need to be like everyone else instead of making our own identity and continuing what we do best. No, we've got to be like everybody else because that's cool
Well,
or it's
well,
a
let's
trendy thing.
well let's have a look because Julian Gabriel Clark here. So, is he planning on doing something really meta and doing a crossover with the Eurovision? This is just fan fiction, not proper Doctor Who. Of course, we're speculating because all he has said is it's coming sooner than you think. But if it comes sooner than you think, people try and add two and two. They maybe make five. They maybe make four. But the point is, there it is interesting about whether he has openly said he wants a musical episode. Now, as a Generation Z, I know you can't represent all of Generation Z. I don't represent all of Generation X. This is the stupidity about politics nowadays, where everybody says I'm from this community, and you think, well, no, we represent ourselves. However,
Flash with labels.
yeah, but we do have an age gap here, and so it's interesting to note. But where do you stand on this? Julian saying, yes, if it is meta, it might be a comment on a galactic Eurovision or something like that, and that's his excuse to get a bit of musical in, because you'd hope that he'd put some effort into it and not just say we're doing a musical episode. Um, but I'll throw that one at you now. If you can give us a concise answer, because what we'll do is we'll get a few of what the thread are saying, and we'll bounce back what our thoughts are.
I just like I say, I just think Doctor Who needs to be its own thing. You're trying to be too clever and trying to throw in references to it ages it locks things in and makes it. Doctor Who used to be timeless. You could believe that the first Doctor could hop into 2025 and believe that. Whereas now it's too trying to be too culturally relevant. You see it with Ruby's character referencing Shy Girl or Sam Fender. These trying to be hip and cool and referencing these modern artists, and it dates it. And trying to be clever and think, oh well, let's have a musical episode to go alongside Eurovision in 2024, because it kind of, like I say, isolates it and okay, it makes it easily identifiable. Doctor Who doesn't need to be trendy and cool. Oh, let's make references so like people's ears prick up. Oh, that you're talking about that person, or you're talking about that person.
Yeah.
Just be your own thing.
So we've what is this about the musical thing though? Aren't you as a Generation Z are buying into let's have as Julian Gable Clark here, a bit of stunt casting, Davina McCall 1 minute, Rylan the next. In his original run, as you know, he had newscasters who were real ones who sometimes we had to kind of then edit out. But and again, that's the cultural dangerous bit. Well, and I think it's just all little nudges and winks. I mean, in some ways at the time you thought, oh, there's so and so, or there's so and so, or there's the EastEnders pub on the
Yeah,
TV in one of the episodes. But
Jackie watching the EastEnders and in Doomsday or whatever it'll go, Army of Ghosts. Yeah,
yeah, but in the end, it's just that's just froth. And the
mm.
trouble is, if you want to have to keep going back and edit people out and edit moments out, yeah, it adds complications. But Rylan being in it, let me just now be a devil's advocate, Cinnamon. When RTD got his gig this time round, he was told by the BBC that they wanted to go global and they wanted Doctor Who to be more like Stranger Things. Therefore, he's going to do what Stranger Things do.
It's the nature of the beast. I mean, it's. I've listened. I like to think I've listened to a fair few interviews now of just of everything, and he seems to be riddled with contradictions because in one hand you've got him saying let's make it bigger, let's make it so global that you can't go anywhere without someone talking about Doctor Who. It is their ideal view of it. And yet, in the other hand, whilst going global, again in the recent interview that I think did he do with, I can't remember who it was with now, but it was on audio, I believe, with Russell recently, talking about no, he wants to keep those British references in, and he said, oh, I know he's sick of all these American shows with their references that we don't get. So he said, no, we're keeping that in. Which on one hand you kind of go, okay, yeah, good. You keep the British aspect of it in still. Um, but yeah, I just think another point is that I think when Doctor Who came back in 2005, it worked well. The whole, oh look, there's that newscaster that you probably recognise, or oh this reference to this very what's the word, contemporary aspect. You know, this is very contemporary. It makes it feel very modern. That worked with Doctor Who in 2005 because in 2005, I've said this numerous times, Doctor Who's only mission was to re-establish itself as a dominant force. No, it wasn't some silly little show from years gone by and people think, oh, what Doctor Who? Well, that's still on. Yeah, it is still on, and it's back with a bang. Doctor Who means business, and that's what the goal and the mindset was then. Now, not so much. I don't think you need to heavily rely on people or on gimmicks or on references. I mean, actually, maybe they do because maybe that's their way of trying to stay relevant. Oh, look, let's get Ollie Alexander in our episode. That'll get people talking. And then it's just even now, people who know, I can't, if Nicola Coughlan, if that's how you pronounce it, people will
Yeah.
be watching the episode just because she's in it. I mean, and they fawn over that. I mean, they'll watch that one episode. Will they stay on as fans after that? It's the whole thing with Jinx Monsoon. We heard it then too. Oh, all the Jinx fans and
Well, the
oh
talk
no, the
is
drag
the talk.
aficionados are going to watch the episode now. Yeah, they'll watch it once, but are they going to stick around? That's the
Well, the talk
question.
is that the Jinx could possibly be back because just like Rogue could be back. Now, our thread is on fire, so I'm trying not to be
Good.
ignorant as we go because they're all fired up on this. John Steed referencing Doctor Who should go back to having a producer and get rid of a showrunner and have writers coming in to do a story, then leaving it a while before coming back. Take a leaf out of the Pertwee era. There is an argument, and I was saying it on the Sunday show, and I need to kind of continue to say it because obviously it was a long show, and you may have missed elements of what we said in that show. The importance of Doctor Who not being tarnished is he is doing an awful lot RTD, and he prized himself. We said in the show that in the Doctor Who magazine, he said he's got about 6 new writers coming in. Now, we don't know whether he's referencing season 2 or season 3 in his diary in the Doctor Who magazine. But as I said, and I know it's a hard one because one minute you're saying we need fresh blood, but the next minute is the fresh blood is selected by RTD. Yeah, okay, selected, of course, and
Mhm.
therefore they will do things surely to please him because that's what you do. You know, you get a job for your boss and you please your boss. So it's not like saying fresh blood. And I see what you're saying, John Steed. Number one is RTD is doing too much. He is doing too much. This showrunner idea, it's not clever. You know that why is the show trying to adopt this American production structure when it was always a tiny British show doing it very well, what it did, very imaginatively, very creatively? And I just think because he's now the showrunner, the kingpin, every decision he makes touches on the show, trespasses on the show, sometimes vandalizes the show, sometimes completely changes the format. And we've got to be so careful with that. And I do think RTD needs, well, I know you could say he needs resting and all the rest of it, but we've got to be realists. He's not going anywhere at the moment. So the point is, the showrunner is doing too much. And he needs questioning. He needs people who will say creatively, like Terence Dicks with Barry Letts, like Robert Holmes with Philip Hinchcliffe. We need, you know, we all need a bit of questioning. We all need to have somebody going, are you sure about that? What about this? I mean, I have to say, when I talk to all my friends to do with this YouTubing, when I talk to all my friends when we're texting or whatever, I fire on ideas. And I actually, if I'm sat in my study just preparing a show or, stuff like that, I'm less creative. I fire off people. Now, I know we're all different, but I do sometimes wonder, about whether having nobody to challenge, nobody to question is a problem. So, it might come back early, as he says, as he promises, but I think that shows other issues that are a problem as well. which is if season 2 comes back early, finishes mid-May, around about there, then of course, is it the next time we see Doctor Who, is it the Christmas special? And then the spin-off with the Sea Devils is actually at the early 2026. That's the other thing to think about. So, it's interesting how this will have ramifications, because you've got to think, if the spin-off possibly then is either very late in 2025 or just after the Christmas special 2026, then because we're not even filming or making season 3 yet, it's going to take a while before we get that. So would the spin-off be the only thing Doctor Who wise in 2026? So much to think about. Now, I'm just going to test you, Cinnamon. Are you still there? Because you're bouncing around that time. Eddie is looking vicious at the moment.
Yeah, can you still hear me okay?
Yeah, so I'll bounce around to one of our bigger items while I've got you, because while the biogenerates are here, it's important that we have our big argy-bargy. He's gone again, you see. This is very, very tricky at the moment. So what I wanted to show everybody was the Radio Times article. YouTube had this YouTube clip, yeah? And they talked about, is Doctor Who still relevant? Now, can I just give my spiel on this? Because I actually do think he talked about Doctor Who fans are like football fans. And I've said that myself on many streams, that when you're a football fan, managers change, but you support the team. Playing styles change. Sometimes you're very defensive, very offensive, and all the rest of it. Sometimes it's what you like, what you don't like, but you tend to still go, still wear the scarf, still support. So yes, fandom and being passionate means you will take the ups and the downs. That's a given. So I get the analogy with football fans. And we obsess about little details. So we'll be very unhappy about a defensive tactic or a choice of why have they rested that player. So just the same, we obsess about casting, we obsess about scheduling, as we just have. We obsess about various little things that make headlines. And we tend to be rewarded by that interest in detail. That's what being a fan is all about. And they say that. But then they make a big point, and this is what I wanted to talk about with Cinnamon. He's trying to come back in and out, so we'll stick with this. He said, he was asked actually, is Doctor Who still relevant in 2024? Now, if you really think about this, everybody, in the thread in particular, because while Cinnamon's trying to get back in on, I can ask you and we can talk. Is Doctor Who still relevant in 2024? Now, it's going to be interesting what your answer is, because I've got a theory on this where I think we've all got to be extremely careful. So I'll keep talking for a second more and see if Cinnamon stays with us. Is Doctor Who still relevant in 2024? When it was a little niche program, you know, when we were the only ones in the school who actually seemed to like the show and you were fairly quiet about it, even then it was getting interfered with by people like Mary Whitehouse. However, now it's seen as a big global brand, and it's bigger than Britain. But it's also seen as a British icon, a part of British culture. And of course, all of us fans will go, it is, it's been on 61 years. Trouble is, the more we say that, yeah, the more we say it's important to Britain, the more, when people want to do their political games, it becomes something they want to conquer, something they want to control, to show their politics, to show their viewpoint. And so the danger is, if you say Doctor Who is still relevant in 2024 as a brand, as something that of British culture, which obviously I believe, then you're going to get everybody wanting to dominate it, control it their way, and it becomes a political platform too, a totem for them. So if it's a symbol of Britain, people will want to control it and show their version of Britain, and then it's in danger. So in many ways, I don't want people to think Doctor Who is still relevant in 2024. I want them to think it's a tired little thing. Do you see what I mean? I mean, I know, good to see Sadako. I don't feel it is relevant. I feel it was last relevant with Day of the Doctor. I mean, it was very, very, God, it was powerful then, wasn't it? Julian Gabriel Clark, I don't think it's a global brand. It's not anywhere near as popular internationally as Star Wars or Marvel. I take your point. I suppose I sometimes bleed in what I'm saying, what Bad Wolf are hoping for, yeah? Triple Jazz, good to see you. And we've had a bit of interaction lately. Peter Capaldi's famous line about everything has its time and everything ends. Although I love Doctor Who, part of me thinks the 12th Doctor's wisdom is true. It can be used, I know. I know a lot of people have used that as a stepping off point to a degree. Stephen Bellow, no, it's not relevant today. No one talks about it unless it's a fan or a reason to plug it. That's where we were going with Cinnamon. Cinnamon, you desperately come in now. The question is Doctor Who still relevant today? And I made my point that the more relevant it is, the more people dominate it to make their own political stand. What do you think?
Well, pretty much the same thing. It's a shame. I hate this kind of question. It's such a shame, isn't it, that we have to sit here and ask this question to ourselves: is Doctor Who relevant in 2024? Well, I know the answer. It should be, but is it? I don't know. This is a topic that we have to discuss.
Did you hear I know you were trying to come in and out, but did you hear my point that if we say as fans, it is important, it is part of British culture, then you now know that people will come looking for that brand to control, manipulate, and make their political bandwagon. That's the trouble.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate thing, because it gets abused, and people come in. I mean, every writer is going to naturally have their own opinion on how the show should go forward. And when that sticks to the show and storylines, okay, yeah, it might not like what a certain writer might do, but as long as they're sticking to what the show is about, then it's fine. It's the same for a football team. You have your ups and downs. It's when people come in and try and tarnish legacy. This is 61 years of a franchise.
Oh, get ready. I'm going to scare you. I'm going to scare you in a minute. Simon Anthony, we're going to use his comments. So just finish your point, Cinnamon, and we'll react to him.
Yeah, like I say, the show is a part of British culture, very much so. So when they stray away from that, people are naturally going to have a negative view towards it.
Right, I've pre-warned, because our thread's lively. My God, I tell you what, we're all bothered. We're all fans. This is true. Anyway, the contrarian. Oh, he's in our thread, and he's made a point, and I just want to get a fast reaction off me and Cinnamon. Here we go. I always have fun with this. Cinnamon, here we go. The last night of the proms has the same problem of being a British icon. I was deeply into the proms. Define British anyway. The thing is, I will quickly say, Simon Anthony, it's not about whether we have to define British. The problem is people have seen it as one of those things that is part of the British kind of cultural landscape. It's already been decided. My definition doesn't count. The point is, it is. If you were talking about British pop culture, British popular culture, Doctor Who is listed. Any documentary, any program will list Doctor Who. Top of the Pops, Coronation Street, Last Night of the Proms, da-di-da-di-da. But yes, like with the Last Night of the Proms, we have seen different representation going on. Sometimes people then saying, because Last Night of the Proms is a global kind of streaming kind of night, and it represents the new Britain, we need to maybe get rid of Rule Britannia, get rid of that, get rid of this, get rid of... the argument every year. And that's my point, Simon, about Doctor Who. Now it's seen as something that represents Britain today. Then you've got the argument with people saying, well, it needs to show this politics, this, and then the storylines fall apart. And that's that. What do you think, Cinnamon?
I mean, obviously I don't expect the Doctor to be waving at, St. George's Cross every time the story starts or anything but like that. But I mean, define British anyway. Well, something that belongs to Britain, whether that be an object or a franchise. This is a British show. It started here. It's still going here. It's not an American show. You know, if suddenly the Premier League started putting loads of commercials and adverts and, you know, sort of Americanized style, you know, breaks and stuff and all this, you know, stopping play all the time like they do in the NFL, you know, that would be a sort of impeding on British culture. You know, we do things a certain way and we don't do things a certain way. I mean, it's an interesting point, I have to say. But, you know, I feel whenever I watch Doctor Who, I don't sit there and think, oh, how very British I feel. But it has a certain quirk to it. Quirk, either or. But, you know, you watch that when Russell came back and when he brought the show back, it feels very British. The people are British. The attitudes, the references, and the cultural sort of like jokes, the sort of like, yeah, we get it.
It's very metropolitan. He wanted it to be very kind of look like London, although it's Cardiff. You know, the London buses and the black taxis. He went for all that, which at the time in 2005 I kind of went for it. But I think it's just there's a point when you go. It's really, do you know, the juxtaposition is really weird. You've got RTD still doing it, which is here's London. You know, and all that stuff. Cardiff pretends to be London. However, he then does all these big kind of universal jeopardy moments when, of course, the world and the universe could end. And so you go from, let's just focus and show there's London, there's London, there's London. And then all of a sudden it's like the universe could be fluxed or something. And you go, look, can we have somewhere in the middle, like the Android invasion, where you're just a village and whatever happens in that village or representation of a village could have global ramifications later, and we'd have to defeat the enemy. Can we just make sure it's in perspective at the time? Otherwise, the Doctor, one person, cannot obliterate. I know he can with a reset button, but I don't want to go into that nonsense. You've got here Triple Jazz. In a sense, globalization has damaged the show. This is my point, Triple Jazz. As soon as people are saying it's a global brand, they suddenly say, right, hold on, how do we want Britain to look? And you think, oh, no, that's not a question you need to ask as a story writer. As a story writer, you need to write a blooming story that will engage. But to say, now, how will Britain look? If we had that at the beginning, we need a very nasty politician in 73 yards. Yeah. We'll make him a certain colour and all the rest. No, this is not how you do it. Cinnamon, is there anything you're disagreeing with on me, or are the bigenerates as one?
Well, I have to say I half agree and half disagree with Simon. He makes another really good point, actually. We talk about things change. Things absolutely do change.
Yes.
Even just recently, you know, EastEnders or has watched EastEnders, that show will have looked a lot different in 1993 than 2023. So much so that when they started introducing Asian families, you know, there was a little bit of pushback, but that makes sense. It wouldn't be considered woke because it was natural. The times were changing. There was a much more, you know, the world was much more diverse, you know, again, now in sort of East End or just anywhere, and when I would have lived there, the world in general, we do mix more now than I think we probably did once before.
We do, but so as we mix, this is what's interesting, and I don't want it to be a political show, but by God, I will have a spin sphere. I always look out for that. I mean, I'll just flash it up now because we're getting quite political, and this is why, because Doctor Who's been kind of grabbed. And
it's been made to be difficult. That's the thing.
Yeah. And so what I'm showing you there, everybody, is yes, there is going to be a substrand of the sense sphere, the spin sphere. When we'll go very political. So I just thought I'll show you that. Look out for that. So, but I don't want us to be extremely, extremely just political. But when the question is asked, is Doctor Who relevant in 2024? It bleeds into politics. Now, I just want to pick up a few things. So Simon Anthony says John Steed's about 50 years out of date. Now, John Steed is giving his opinion as well.
I don't even know what that is. Is that a person or what? Am I missing something?
John Steed, he's a good lad, and he supports us and other streams.
Oh, he's a viewer. Oh, sorry. Yeah. I thought it was some guy from the past.
Yeah. So you've got Farsight, who's also another follower. Good to see you. The Doctor is as British as John Steed. Now, I think there's also the Avengers, of course, so which is John Steed. But John Steed's also a follower. But as Simon Anthony says, yeah, but he's 50 years out of date. But this is the point. if you're saying what's Britain and what should Doctor Who be representing and all the rest of it, you can't just say it's any old fad from now and dump history and dump important moments. So, for example, I'm half Australian. And I've got triple jars and a load of Australians in the thread. So therefore, the argument is Gallipoli, stop talking about it. Anzac Day, stop talking about it. You're over 100 years old. No. Oh, my God, that's sacrilege. You can't do that. That's part of Australia's creation as a nation. If you go to Australia, you cannot discuss the birth of that nation. I know there's the Aboriginal element, but without talking about Anzacs and Anzac Day and Gallipoli and World War One. And so history is extremely important, weirdly sometimes, to the DNA of the present. And Doctor Who, when it does its timey-wimey history, dumping it around in the past, needs to be careful how it represents history still. Remember, Cinnamon, the show started in 1963. It was supposed to be educate and inform, and it did the Aztecs. It did, the French Revolution. It did various things. And I worry now, of course, that when we do anything from the past now, there'll be a very strange slant on it because we're trying to sell a global Britain. And if we did, say, the Tudors now, and we did Henry VIII or Elizabeth I, we might have to have a very strange DEI representation. We might have to have a trans character who wasn't noticed in the past. I don't know, because they have to say, aren't 2024 British wonderful? What do you reckon, Cinnamon?
Yeah. A bit like I was just saying a moment ago, things do change. That is true. It's just a fact. Whatever, regardless of what opinion you have, right wing, left wing, and not to get too bogged down in the politics, but regardless of what anyone's opinion is, time happens. 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 50 years from now, 40 now, 100 years from now, social opinions will change again, as they always will. So things do change, things do move on. But I do think, on the flip side of that, when you make a conservative effort to change what something is, or fundamentals of what made something what it is, in this appeasement to sort of try and be a bit more accessible to, it used to be like this, but if we keep doing that, then it'll keep it too niche. I mean, we need to broaden it out a bit and be a bit more open. If you're diluting what made the original thing what it was in the first place, just to appease and include people that the show was never really for anyway, or people that never even cared about the show, then is it still the same show? Again, it's like the old adage, isn't it? Is it, is it the broom? Is it still the same broom if you change the handle, put a new lick of grease on it, change the bristles? Is it still the same broom? Is it still the same show if you?
Well, that's the question.
Change different parts of it and then uproot it, and and then this is what I was saying earlier about the show needing to respect itself and take itself seriously. It needs to set out a bunch of its own rules, and then try to stick to them. Because if every couple of years you're just going to have some new world-shattering or flux event, or no, he's not the timeless child, he's now the forbidden child, whatever that means. If there's just going to be some new thing, and it doesn't.
It's just like you made a good analogy about the broom and changing the handle, and a lot of Doctor Who fans, and we, like I said, we're compared to football fans in our passion and our loyalty. A lot of Doctor Who fans are saying this question, which is it Doctor Who? It's got the title, it's got the TARDIS, it's got the theme music and various kind of furniture of old Doctor Who. But the whole taste of it, the whole vibe of it, the whole fashion of it, the Doctor, the character, the whole lot is so different that it's the tin says Doctor Who, but actually what's in it is just not, which makes me come to mind. I mean, we're not just trying to bait people into this discussion. I mean, it's a fascinating discussion and we won't go away on it, but I'll add some detail to it. So, Cinnamon, we looked at the Christmas trailer for Joy to the Worlds, and then I said to Cinnamon, I was flicking through all my old 90s DVDs and it just flashed up. I wasn't looking for it. The Runaway Bride Christmas trailer. And can I just say to all you Doctor Who fans, fascinating. There's a timey-wimey moment. I went back 20 years suddenly. And the Runaway Bride trailer, its vibe, its feel was so different to the one I just analysed for the Sunday show. And then you start to say, is it Doctor Who just in name only? Now, I've said a bit there. See what the thread thinks. But whilst the thread's telling us, Cinnamon, did you have a quick look at 20 years ago and how it seems to have changed? Or am I just digging away and looking for trouble?
No, I don't think you're just sort of looking for things at all. I think that's very, very true. I mean, I've watched numerous streams from Rabbi, and he'd always, as an example, whenever he'd make a point, he'd always bring up, I think especially when the season 1 trailer came out, he actually made an effort to go back and look through all the old trailers and compare them and sort of rank them, actually, as he went along. And you really can see the difference. Again, when I'm talking about confidence and how the first Russell era felt confident, even though it probably actually kind of wasn't the first season. It was a bit of a mess production-wise, but they had this allure that, okay, yeah, well, we know what we're doing. I mean, they did know what they're doing eventually. I mean, they grew and got better and better anyway. But, Doctor Who, 2005 onwards, did have a certain confidence about it, and you could see it in the trailers. I mean, look at who remembers the one with Christopher Eccleston running from the fire down the tunnel? I mean, doesn't that just scream confidence? Yeah, it's back with a bang. It's grabs your attention. And the music, the atmosphere, again, the tone of it, it made it feel like, yeah, this is something that couldn't be missed. Whereas now, the trailers feel a bit too cutesy. It's all a bit too cool. It's all a bit too, isn't
look
this
at this.
funny? And
well, look at this. Look at this, isn't it? I mean, as Doctor Who fans, as that Radio Times YouTube film said, we like the details. So let me just show everybody this as a reminder. I know not everybody was digging through my 90s DVD collection. So just to remind you, it's almost 20 years ago. Donna Noble, for the first time, it was the Christmas special. We always have a one-off companion. She didn't land as well at that point before she came back. She's now one of my favorite companions, but, a bit more shouty. However, she appears in the TARDIS. There's the Doctor of old. There's that great star where, it's Christmas, so we needed a star. I'm sure they're going to do that again in The Joy to the Worlds. I shall descend. Do you know what? I'll just say it very quickly now before my old brain, my Generation X brain. I shall descend. Go back to Starbeast, everybody. And Donna Noble says, I shall descend on any bullies of Rose. And I found that a very strange verb to use. I'm just parking that, everybody. Why did Donna Noble say, I shall descend? Any parent who's going to defend their child will just say, I've got your back, or I'll fight for you. But to say, I shall descend. Yeah, but to say, I shall descend using this reference, I found interesting. Anyway, 20 years ago, you've got the Santa monsters, the Santa robots. Santa's a robot. Then you've got a bit of space action. There's your monster who was out to kill you. You shouldn't even exist, says the Doctor. The Doctor on true form, very authoritative, very commanding. The companion, very confused about life. Can't you reverse or warp or fade or something? And him not able to control the TARDIS. I missed that. Then, of course, you get the robots with their mask off. It's a bit like the Auton moment, the big reveal. You then have that TARDIS action on the motorway, which was the first time I've seen proper TARDIS action like that since Horns of Nimon and various things where they were very imaginative. And I must admit at the time, I found that exciting. Then you've got Donna Noble being very original Donna Noble, before she was nuanced. Get me to the church. Then you've got more threat and jeopardy. Him looking very worried about his companion. Looking under threat. Am I safe? Key question to tell us there'll be tension in the trailer. He doesn't want to lose anyone else. That's the same as when he's just lost Ruby Sunday. So we've got the same blooming vibe again there. And then you can see she's grabbed by somebody. And then we've got a black family at Christmas. And then we're under attack. Britain is under attack first, of course. There's the flood barriers. And then you've got the girl screaming. So you've got jeopardy and danger. And then you've got explosions and danger. And then you've got the nasty monster. This planet will be scorched. Danger. And then you've got a nice reaction shot. And then you've got a very, very broody dominant picture of our hero Doctor. Yeah. And then, surprise, surprise, it says Christmas Day, 7 o'clock. Doctor Who, The Runaway Bride. And suddenly, our realization that the new series, Christmas special, will be on at 5:10. And the trailer for that was very, very different. Now, I've just run through it just because not everybody, Cinnamon, will have just looked through The Runaway Bride. But what I will say, I'll say it dead quickly now, and we'll get Cinnamon's reaction and then everybody in the margin, the thread, because I really do think you can just see there's a big difference in Doctor Who. There was jeopardy in that one. The time broadcasting, the broadcasting time is 2 hours difference. So BBC was taking it more seriously as a peak time show. There was a bit of fun there. I mean, the Santa mask on a robot, however, it's still a robot and it will still kill you. Therefore, you had the Doctor Who classic, imaginative, dead creative. They always did different things with their monsters. You have a mature companion. There's going to be no love interest at all. She's going to shout at him, I want to get to the church. Am I safe? That's it. And you had a lot of tension and threat. I've talked a lot there because I've just gone through the trailer. Cinnamon, when you saw that trailer, has the show, when you look at Joy to the World's Christmas trailer, has it really changed?
Yeah, even then, you're just showing screenshots. There's no audio. There's no footage. You're not watching it. You're just seeing a couple of screenshots there, and even then, you can still tell the difference. I mean, I don't even think it's just because of nostalgia either. You can clearly see, and there's a lot of action in that scene. You can see there the last shot there is very striking at the fire. Thinks, oh God, something really serious is happening there. What is the Doctor okay? What's going on here? You can see the monster. You can see the companion. Shows her off as well, because obviously that at the time, 2006, that would have been the talking point, wouldn't it? Who's this? Rose has just left. Who's this new woman? Although I'm sure people at the time probably did know who Catherine Tate was, because she was sort of on a lot of comedy shows, wasn't she? But it shows you again the tension. There's a lot there. So there's a lot to pick out from. Whereas if I was to watch the Joy to the World trailer again, even just thinking about it now, I don't really remember much of it. I remember there being a dinosaur, and I remember him talking about pumpkin lattes and a cheese and ham toasty. That's kind of it. That's what I take away from it. There isn't, apart from that, there isn't too many things that jump out, to be honest.
I don't want to interrupt you and just do another speech. I promise you. I just want to help you out there, and then I'll get to the shot. Yeah, I can see what you're saying. I will get to shots of the Joy to the Worlds, everybody. But as you're saying, you can't remember much about it. In this one, you know what the baddie is. The baddie is the robots, and the baddie is that spider. Yeah? Now, the baddie in the Joy to the Worlds is what?
Good question. What is it? Is it the bloke that's running all these hotels that jump all over these little portals into different Christmases?
So there's the baddie in 2006 or whatever it was, and I'll show everybody the baddie. It's the man with the suitcase. He happens to be white, and yeah, I'll get him in a moment. But I think that's my concern, that we've gone for human evil, and it's a bore. It's a bore. As a Doctor Who fan, I always like the monsters. I like the craziness. I know the dinosaur is in it, but it's always going to be used as some sort of cheap shot. That's the score. So if I just show you now, everybody, there we go. So the new trailer, the Doctor knows there's an emergency. Joy's in effect chained to a bomb. That seems to be a plot device. If you take a look at that man there, because I've been looking at a lot of the publicity shots in this Time Hotel, there he is with the suitcase, with the bomb. You can decide what he looks like. I don't want to keep going on about it, but there you go. And there you go. And there you go. So it's, to me, without saying I know everything, that seems to be he is the key, because they say it's all about a bomb, that they've got to chase this imposter through all the Time Hotel strange little doorways to Everest, to the London Blitz. We've seen the story, haven't we? So sorry, Cinnamon. He's the baddie.
I mean, it doesn't excite you, does it? I mean, it's just some bloke I mean, wasn't there a time where people were raving about the fact that you didn't have to have these actors in sort of slightly, silly looking costumes? By the time we got to the 2000s, the technology and the budget that we had then now allocated to have good looking monsters and good looking sets and to be convincing. And that was amazing. And now we've just got another generic bloke, a human. The humans are the real villains. How many times have we seen that trope? For kids watching, they want to see some action. I know. Well, I always like the monsters. My favourite Doctor Who stories were the ones with the monsters in. Naturally, as an adult now, I can appreciate and see the value of the Unquiet Dead. Although that had monsters in it too, but like there were certain stories that didn't have monsters in that I didn't quite grab to, or didn't quite grab me as a child whenever I'd watched the big monsters. Those were the ones. That's why I like the Lazarus Experiment. Now most people forget about that story. It's it's not even a bad story. If I was to sort of get a general gauge of fandom, most people don't think it's too bad. They don't think it's too good. It sort of sits in this sort of middle ground because no one really talks about it. It's sort of a quiet episode.
If I said this, Cinnamon, take a look at this, because Simon Anthony's saying, have we discussed yet that the RTD and Stephen Moffat talking about the episode? We will get onto that, but there's lots of summaries given. So basically, if you took the summary, so is Doctor Who still relevant in 2024? I haven't forgotten that question. We're worried about who controls it and why. The other thing is it Doctor Who on the tin, as it says? And here, Doctor Who Christmas special touches on loss, love, and humour. Now, before I get your reaction, Cinnamon, and the thread, if you look at those three words, those three words were not what I would get in a normal Doctor Who episode. They weren't. Love, no, it's not a soap opera. Loss, well, that's a soap opera too. And in a very rare Doctor Who like Adric or Katrina or Sarah Kingdom, you'd get the death of a companion or something like that. But it was rare. Or a very upsetting Joe Grant leaving in the Green Death. So loss was rare, really. Love, no. Humor, well, tiny, a line. Chop Suey, the Galactic Emperor. That was it. You just got a line. Tom Baker's Doctor just being cheeky to somebody. Now, when I see those three words, Cinnamon, this does not sound like Doctor Who anymore.
Well, in sort of the way that you've used those words, yeah, because loss, again, classic Who, was there much loss? Well, yeah, of random characters that we meet for one story, you're not going to be upset that some random character got killed in part 2 of.
Yeah, we love a bit of death.
Android invasion or something, like, like you say, Sarah Kingdom, it's very rare that a companion was killed off. And if you're going to sort of bend the use of the word and sort of say losses in terms of like losing someone as if like they leave, like Joe Grant, that sort of use of the word loss. Love, again, there was no hanky-panky in the TARDIS, as Jane T would say. Humour, well, maybe a lot of humour in certain parts, maybe more the modern era. Matt Smith had a lot of humorous moments. Tom Baker as well, but there was a lot of moments where there isn't a lot of humour. I wouldn't sit there and think about season 26 and think, oh yeah, it's very humorous. It's quite a very dark season, actually. There's a lot of, there's humour in there somewhere. Out of the three words there, humour is probably there the most, but it's not what I wouldn't describe. I wouldn't look at Doctor Who and say, yeah, it's about humour. It has humour in it, but it's not about humour. It's a small.
Let's have a look at this. JWC Reviews, great to see you. Lovely. I love this joke. It's a ratings bomb. But the other thing is, I just wanted to add, excuse me, just lost it then. Good to see Dalek Lives Matter. That's the one. Watched Keep of Traken this week. Thoroughly enjoyed it. There is virtually no special effects, just a great story well told. An old codger on a throne. And something about the sauce sounds as though you're in some dodgy greasy spoon cafe. It doesn't need much. In fact, the Keeper of Traken is to me is just that lovely moment when you get your master back and you see the grandfather clock. But I know what you mean. Dalek Lives Matter, a story on a nondescript planet, nothing to do with Earth politics. The source has nothing to do with it. I can't think of anything that was relevant to Earth. And it was just a good ripping yarn, a nice lead up, a tee up to Legopolis. And I do miss that. And I really do think, Cinnamon, do you Generation Zers just desperately want Doctor Who to be all sun and dance, always on Earth, always has some representation issue, instead of actually doing science fiction, adventure? Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon, just take us away and let us forget today.
Well, it would seem that a lot of people in my generation group would want that. It's all about the representation for them. It's all about looking good. It's all about being kind and this and this and this. Considering a lot of they call themselves fans, and this isn't going to be some big thing about gatekeeping. But if I was a fan of the show, you would obsess like we used to when we used to have endless debates about whether Love and Monsters was a good story or not, or how round should the Dalek bumpers actually be? How many of them should there be? Weird little pointless geeky things that only we Doctor Who fans would care about. Now, whenever I hear, if you even dare to check any sort of the comments underneath the Doctor Who Twitter, it doesn't seem to be a lot. The focus doesn't seem to be there on the actual show. It's all about these external things. Oh, this actor's in this controversy because he didn't like a certain tweet, or because he did like a certain tweet, or the Doctor Who hasn't got enough of these people in it, so I don't like it. It's all, the focus doesn't seem to be on much of the show anymore. It doesn't seem to be about sci-fi and just about the story.
No,
it's all about everything else.
And so you're answering part of the question, aren't you, Cinnamon? When I said, is it Doctor Who in title only? You seem to be saying there it has fundamentally changed, and whether it's science fiction at all has moved. Time Hotel, yep, there's a time hotel in it. That is, I suppose you could call that a science fiction concept. And Doctor Who always did that kind of creative version. It was always a nice light touch. I mean, Time Hotel is just as much as a time corridor in Resurrection of the Daleks. So I can buy into that. But as JWC Reviews said a few moments ago, when Stephen Moffat wrote Boom, there was a bomb in it. There's a bomb in this one. He's referencing the Villain Guard arms manufacturer. I don't know. Are we seeing anything new? Are we being unfair to Stephen Moffat? Because as he said in an interview with the Radio Times, he has to bridge between season 1 and season 2. Ruby Sunday's just left. The Doctor's crying. And he has to suddenly, before we see Verada see-through, he's got to just do a one-off episode. And I suppose that is tricky. But I don't know. Now, Thread, please, before I go on, because I want to change the slide. Do you all think I'm being unfair? When you hear the words loss, love, and humour, Thread, is that Doctor Who? Am I missing something? I know it seems to be what Doctor Who is now. So, loss, love, and humour. The humour, I'm not buying into too much, because a line from Tom Baker in Robots of Death, just to cheek the crew, that to me is nothing. Or saying to Taron Capel, you look ridiculous in that outfit. You can call that humour, but it's one line. It doesn't wreck the whole blooming.
The other one, you're a beautiful woman, probably.
Yeah. So, Thread, what do you think? Because I actually do think with that description, that synopsis is just not Doctor Who. Triple Jazz musical, still up in Tasmania. Love and Monsters pretends to be Doctor Who art house, and I don't buy it. JWC Reviews, but is science fiction in general not simply just character and plot based these days, rather than focusing on the big picture? Is it all about the personal consequences to people? JWC Reviews, I think you're onto it. I think I said in some streams a long time ago now that it seems to me that anybody who seems to be saying they're talking about sci-fi, what they're really saying is, I'm putting soap opera in space. I'm putting a character in space and they have a nervous breakdown, or they start to fall in love with an alien and they don't understand. I saw in Star Trek Discovery, they were trying to work out how you date. And are you rude? Is it rude as a Vulcan to kind of chat somebody up in a different? And you're thinking, oh no, somebody might say that's very important. It's very meaningful, that, because it shows you that we all have interesting dating rules, culturally speaking. You think, oh, Just give us a blooming story, for God's sake. Is the Star Trek Enterprise or Discovery under threat? While they're all kind of working out whether they go palm to palm and a holy palmer's kiss, sorry, Romeo and Juliet reference. You know, what's going on here? Science fiction. I teach Shakespeare, but I don't necessarily want to see a kind of big, you know, I'm getting riled. Anthony Parkinson, RTD is obsessed with soapy mundanity. Remember Anthony Parkinson? You may not, I don't know your age, but I always tried to avoid it. I mean, the program in the 70s always said, why don't you switch off your television set and go and do something else less boring instead? Remember, that was the tune. So I did. Some holidays go and play. Yeah,
it's not the old say, oh, if you don't like it, don't watch it, as if that fixes the problem. That's another thing. If that was the argument, oh, if you don't like it, stop watching. Well, what's the other adage? It's a bit like, you know, sticking on a plaster to fix a leak. It's a very temporary solution. Okay, yeah, I'm removing myself from the problem, but that problem's still there. I have an issue with Doctor Who. I would like that issue fixed. Me removing myself, okay, I might not get as annoyed about it, but the issue's still there. I don't want to leave Doctor Who. I want to continue watching Doctor Who, as I'm sure we all do, really. We just want the issues that are there that we don't like to hopefully be, you know, fixed. Or there is a certain gripe that you've got with it. Like I did with the Jodie era. I didn't think she particularly convinced me that she was the same kind of Doctor as the rest. I didn't like the music. I didn't like the writing. Now, a lot of the issues I did have with Jodie's era are now gone, but they've been now replaced with other issues. So that's the sort of juxtaposition, I guess. You know, you close one door and then another one, like whack-a-mole. You hit one and another one just sprouts up. You know, there's more problems.
We've got the threader helping me out with my question. The doctor's crying. Guess Snotty Gatwa's back. Wait, no, he does say, and I said in my stream on Sunday, Gillian, that he said if you don't like the emotional Doctor, there's more emotion in season 2.
It's non-stop.
John Steed, Doctor Who this Christmas has been placed in a good spot around other programs. That is a good point, and I agree with that. And I said it on my Sunday stream. It was said by one of my panelists that Strictly, surprisingly, is before it, and then it's sandwiched with it's got my head whether it's called The Midwife. So basically, it's got 2 strong programs sandwiching it, which can only be good. I noticed in the one show though, at the RTD again. I know he's Welsh, but he went mad about, Gavin and Stacey's back. So basically, the one show has got him on as the showrunner, the god of Doctor Who now, the self-ordained god, and to get us excited. And the first things he said about it being on Christmas Day is, I bet you everybody's wanting to tune in to Gavin and Stacey. And he seems to be leading us or even tricking us into thinking that's going to be the big ratings hit. Please look over there. I think some call it gaslighting. Look over there, and you might not notice the Doctor Who ratings a bit lower over here. It's Christmas Day. Nobody's doing anything else, RTD, and it's Doctor Who. And if it's Doctor Who scaring the kids and really, really having some fantastic monster and robot or something and lasers and all the rest of it, you'd get big ratings, like you did in the past, RTD with Voyage of the Damned. But no, it's going to be on early doors. But I take your point, John Steed, and he seems to keep telling us that Gavin and Stacey's going to be the main event. All right, it's a bit like that stormtrooper in Star Wars. You've seen nothing. You've seen nothing. And Ben Kenobi has a word with him. Jamie Reese. Yeah, Jamie Reese. It's all too soap opera. Julian Gabriel Clark. Heaven Sent is all about loss and love. True. An exception, of course, Julian, and it's you need exceptions sometimes, and it is, of course, it is. It's beautifully.
It went that story, doesn't it? I mean, the Doctor is literally just right off the back of losing Clara, and you see, it's a very good story. So yeah, it definitely can work. And obviously, this is what I mean. It just those 3 words. What was it? Love, loss, and humor.
Yeah.
Not to say they can never work in Doctor Who. Of course they can. That'd be stupid to say otherwise. They can absolutely work in the show.
You've got Dalek Lives Matter, as he's saying. Lost, love, and humour sounds more like Barbara Cartland novel. I know. It just sounds like Yeah, I've had that comment from Dead Man. Good to see you. Love of Monsters is a commentary on fans, and it has a key. Yeah, yeah. The trouble is the monster. Oh my god! You know, where did we go on that one? SG, hello. My favorite Tom moment is the sisters in a treacle well story in Android Invasion. It's so funny. Julian Gabriel Clark. Yes, Captain Kirk was bumping off aliens in that, but that was the difference. Star Trek and Doctor Who weren't the same thing. He was a human in space, and I dare say he might fancy some alien and all the rest of it with green skin, as he did. But that wasn't Doctor Who. And that was the point. Why are we aping other programs? Why are we trying to emulate other programs? It's a lack of self-confidence. Ultimately, the BBC doesn't understand Doctor Who, and ultimately, we have no confidence in what Doctor Who is.
I've actually got a quote that I just remembered I'd like to read out, actually, that I screenshotted before I came on. And I don't know if it's from Russell or, well, it's from the Stephen Moffat fans Facebook page, but whether it's from, it's talking about Russell's era, so I'm assuming it might be from him. But it starts off like this. As it had never been done before, Russell T Davies specifically wanted the Cybermen to battle the Daleks on Doctor Who. So we're talking about the season 2 finale.
Yeah.
He explained, when you have them as toys, do you say they're from different universes so they can't possibly mate? No. You make them fight. Davis wanted Doomsday to be a boy's dream come true, and everything he had hoped to see as a child. When the two foes do meet, he didn't want them snarling at each other. That's boring. So they get bitchy. Now, I take away that. What I take away from that is a bit of fan service, a bit of a sort of a decision that fans would want to see. Who wouldn't want to see? Is that like? I mean, again, you probably guys are a lot older than me. Was there ever a point in Classic Who where you thought, wouldn't it be interesting if the Daleks and the Cybermen never did meet for one story? I mean, clearly Russell thought like that. And when you hear that quote there, and the sort of passion and the sort of like fanboy in that, and they're sort of like, oh, that would be a very good decision for Doctor Who, or the ultimate thing. How the Daleks and Cybermen never met before. We've got to make it happen. That seems like a very good and bold interest, or very bold decision made in the interest of the show. And I'm not sure we get decisions like that anymore. It's all about
the other thing
changing something, or we don't have to have it the Doctor like that anymore, or we're going to change that part of it, or it's all taking away.
But Cinnamon, the other thing is, though, Cinnamon, it's a good point you make, is that I mean, I don't think I did do that. However, I'm not saying I represent all fans from the 1970s, but the point is this, and the downside is this. Never mind the Daleks with the Cybermen in the end of season 2 finale. What about the Pandorica, when you had nearly every enemy of Doctor Who all surrounding him at Stonehenge? And to me, that was fan fiction nonsense. And he became Space Jesus, and he started shouting at them. They could have zapped him at any point, never mind imprisoning him. That's when it all went wrong. And I do think, whether you had that dream of the Daleks versus the Cybermen when you were a kid, I don't think it necessarily has to be done. But I will make this point, because I don't think there should ever be a golden rule as Cinnamon. But what I do think, if you're going to do this, Gene Roddenberry was stronger on this. He built a whole universe to have his characters in, to be honest. And he knows the rules. So there's a border in space between the Romulans, etc., etc. He's kind of set it up. And there's, the Klingons are over there. If you're going to bring the Daleks and the Cybermen back, really, I would like the showrunner, since he's saying he's the god of it all, to actually sit down in a cupboard with some writers and go, right, how can we have the Daleks, the Sontarans, the Rutans, the Cybermen, everybody in the same universe? How does that work? Are the Cybermen over in that part, in that quadrant? I would like that sort of planning, because then there's a structure to build the whole series on. Otherwise, you get this silly...
like that sort of thinking as well. And I would agree with you on that respect, because as a gamer, anyone who's familiar with the Elder Scrolls franchise, the amount of world building in that franchise and all the lore in that franchise, I mean, to the fact that they have actually got a map on the game of these sort of different, well, I think in the game they call it, they don't call it countries, there's another word for it, like to describe like sort of like a region, and there's like different borders and all this sort of I know these people or this race live down there in the southeast, in the sort of swampy lands, and other people are sort of the Nordic Vikings. They all live in the north. So typically, sort of lizard people. When I say lizard people, I mean literally like male like lizards walking around on 2 feet. They all live down there, so there's not very likelihood that they're going to meet all those Vikings up there because it's not from that climate. It's not their atmosphere. It's like me going to the Antarctica. I'm not going to do very well there. It's not for me. So in that sort of respect, you could have that sort of world building of, or does it make sense for the Daleks and the Cybermen to maybe meet in the story, or does it make sense for the Suntaran to be here? So yeah, I can take your body, but I mean, maybe this is where the good thing about the generational divide is that I quite liked that Stonehenge scene, and I do agree with you. Actually, it is a bit rather convenient how no one thought actually all of us here we could just shoot him right now, and no one thought to get a chance. It's kind of funny that.
And the same happened in the time of the Doctor. I mean, yes, I know there's going to be a little bit of dramatic license where, you need if you want your hero before they die to give a speech, then the villains have to hold back for some reason. A bit like the Toymaker could have zapped Tennant a bit earlier too, or could have zapped. Yeah, if he's going to zap the Tennant to then force a regeneration, why didn't he just zap them when they became two? I don't know why he had to wait and go, what you want to play rounders now? It was a load of nonsense, that really. Now, my concern is it's just, I'm losing my thread here. When you look at that screen there, for example, Doctor Who now seems to be so light touch on everything. So that, I'm sorry, this is now cosplay territory. Rogue was cosplay, but that's a one-off story. And even though we've got lots of issues with Rogue, we could say it's a skit on cosplay. If it's never done again, I'll park it like Love and Monsters. However, this looks as though, when I look at all the trailer pictures, that you've got people, checking into the Time Hotel, and then they can go, let's go back to the Tudor period, and we'll play dress up. A bit like Bridgerton, Rogue. Let's dress up as cavemen. Let's dress up as this. And so, again, it's like a nice, light, frothy Doctor Who story that doesn't take itself too seriously. Everybody's playing dress up. He runs around like he's in some sort of panto. Yeah, I'm going to say that word because in The Importance of Being Earnest, he's accused of it's all being very panto. And it's all very just light touch, light touch, light touch. Now, I know on the other side, Doctor Who can't say it's kind of Chekhov. But the point is, Doctor Who, by taking itself seriously within the story limits, served itself very well. And I just think now there's too much light-hearted touches. So that'll be funny. There'll be loads of funny moments. I mean, I'm a Doctor Who and a sci-fi fan. I love that picture of futuristic London with Tower Bridge there in the foreground. I love that. But
I just a very good shot. I don't think I've actually seen that before. I must have missed that. But yeah, I mean, there's obviously someone that, well, you'd like to think someone sat there and drew that, and not AI, but something like that. But yeah, like if the whole point of it is that these are people from the future, so those two, that man and that woman there, I would want those to be people who were born in whatever it is. Let's say this set is set in like 2310. I don't want those to be actual Tudors walking around, because again they'd be confused. They're a bit like the cavemen. If real cavemen were there, they'd be destroying everything, smashing the whole place up. It wouldn't work. It just looks silly. So I would like to hope that like this is a sort of in the future, you could go to this hotel and think, should we go back to the Tudor times? Then then you could dress up and like sort of pretend to be a part of it. Then I would have a problem with it. But I think you might have mentioned this before. I might have a slight gripe with it if that man there and that woman there, if they were actually Tudors and they're just wandering around this futuristic hotel without caring about, yeah, that's just totally normal. And then going back to their lives, like, yeah, wouldn't everyone else find out? I don't think I'm overthinking that there either. I think that's a fair thing to say.
Well, I mean, you look at the shots. I mean, the continual shame, and I say this with Simon Anthony, who comes on our Sunday panel. The shame is you've got people behind the scenes who are putting all their passion and skill and talent into making the sets, the special effects, the costumes, and I can't knock what it looks like. It does look a bit light side, you know. I mean, to be honest, we criticise some of 80s Who for being a bit too light in look. And I do think nearly every scene I'm seeing seems to be very light. The other thing I wanted to show you, Cinnamon, before I hit the Arthur Dent Hitchhiker's Guide. Oh, isn't it funny? I mean, I'm in hysterics. It's such a funny episode. I can see it now that the doctor he's behind the scenes and he's checking into the Time Hotel, but he checks into his room in the TARDIS and then he comes out and it's so funny. Oh God, you know, Oh, Stephen Moffat, you're better than that. I've watched your series. Douglas is cancelled. Come on. But it's this. I disagree. As a Generation X, as an old Doctor Who fan, I think this is incorrect, Stephen Moffat. This dialogue here, I'll show you, Cinnamon. In the trailer for Joy to the Worlds, the Doctor says, "Oh yeah, you have to be mysterious all the time. That's why everybody leaves you. That is why you were always alone." And then, you know, there's questions like, how did I get to be you? You'll find out. Who are you? You'll find out. What do I do? Where do I go? You'll find out. Because, of course, it's a doppelganger. Oh, it's so good. Doctor Who's never done that. But the thing that really bothers me, Cinnamon, is how many Doctor Who companions have left because the Doctor was mysterious all the time? And I said in my Sunday stream, Susan was kicked out the TARDIS. That had nothing to do with that. Barbara and Ian just wanted to get back. That was it. It wasn't about the Doctor being mysterious. They were tired and they just wanted to get back to 60s London. And I could continue. Sarah had to leave because he was going back to Gallifrey. Hello, Donna Noble had to leave the TARDIS, not because he was mysterious, because she was having a meta crisis. So, Stephen Moffat, that's gobbledygook. You're rewriting Doctor Who history. Companions did not leave the TARDIS because the Doctor was too mysterious, too vague. And it sounds like it's a criticism of the old Doctors. But Cinnamon, I don't agree with this line at all.
Because it isn't. It's because it's nonsense. It doesn't make sense. I mean, can anyone? I mean, I can't think of one companion that is like I said to the Doctor. No, I'm done with you. You're just secretive all the time. I can't get to you. They are at first. Because, of course, who isn't puzzled by a so-called alien with a time-traveling machine? No one knows who he is at first. No one ever knows, really. Well, apart from a few. Clara knew everything, I think. But, they always gel to him. They always understand. Oh, he's just a doctor. No, wait, what are you talking about? No one's just called the Doctor. Well, he is. And they get that. And they learn. I mean, again, there's been a few times where people have disagreed with the Doctor. Maybe a bit like Tegan. She was just fed up of the killing and the dying. And she's like, I can't do this anymore. That's not... It wasn't even falling out with him. It was just she's just had enough.
Yeah,
she left on her own terms. I generally can't think of an example of a companion leaving the Doctor because they were just fed up with how he was and fed up. I'm sick of you. You don't tell me anything. You just lie and you keep everything. What's the point of it?
I mean, the Jodie Whittaker Doctor did go slightly down that road with her fam because, Graham worried he had cancer and she was very kind of cut off.
I wasn't surprised left if that's the sort of reaction you get.
But that's a different story. But I've got another quote. Everybody, hold on to your horses. Here we go. Well, Simon Anthony, you're giving us good value because I don't want this to be an echo chamber. We've got Generation X here, Generation Z, and Santa Claus. So please remember, says Simon, the trailer had no import from production. Also, Christmas is silly and the post 9 p.m. show will have the hard stuff. RTD has to accommodate the fund managers. This is the problem, isn't it, Cinnamon? That the Christmas episodes have always ended up being dross, light, frothy candy floss.
Yeah, Simon's right there. All the Christmas specials, bar a couple where they, again, Voyage of the Damned is pretty,
yes,
it's sort of a disaster movie, isn't it? But a lot of them that's the thing with Christmas specials. They are always tend to be light. They're not really too serious. I mean, it's Christmas as well, so in a way, you don't want a big, you wouldn't want an episode like midnight on a Christmas special. I mean, you could if you wanted to, and that would be an experiment. But it's Christmas. Come on, you want to be a bit fun. So I would agree with that. Yeah, you don't want it too dark.
So what about
but,
what
a
about
little
this
bit
one,
of
Cinnamon?
a bit of danger, and wouldn't go amiss too at the same time.
What about this one, Cinnamon? And I'm going to bring in Raymond Williams here. Thank you. Doctor Who isn't allowed to be scary these days. They can't have parents complaining about kids having nightmares, mental health, etc. As a society, we are becoming too protective. I said in my stream on Sunday, and it is becoming a theory now, Cinnamon, that whether we scoff at it or not, and I'm just parking this as an idea, you know that universities around the world are having safe spaces. They cancel speakers. People need to feel safe in their own environment, right? I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's where we are. So I can understand that my yearning as a Generation X classic Doctor Who fan to say, get them behind the sofa, get the kids scared again on Christmas Day, get them thinking Doctor Who's a thrill. Actually, is there a point that it's too risky for the BBC to do the old scare the kids stuff? Because parents might say, I need television to be a safe space for my kids. That argument just kills everything. If anybody says, I need a safe space, and I took offense at that, or my kid couldn't cope, that's more powerful and more lethal than anything Mary Whitehouse ever said in the 70s. That just kills the show. It means you can never scare the kids.
Well, yeah, I agree with you as well, Castor. I think we should absolutely have midnight for Christmas Day. But I agree. I think we should. I mean, look at me. I turned out fine, and I mean, there were some nights where the Waters of Mars pretty much traumatized me. Blink pretty much traumatized me. Well, when I say traumatized, I don't mean the full extent. I don't sit there thinking I generally have PTSD. But those episodes as a kid, because this was my era. Again, for some of you, you probably would have been an adult. Well, yeah, by the time these episodes came out, so you would probably viewed them differently. But for a child, and this era was sort of made for me in a way that I suppose the prequels are made for me as well, rather than the big classic one. Well, that's a whole different debate as well. I absolutely think Doctor Who should be scary. Obviously there is a limit. I'm not saying you have to see someone get absolutely ripped apart. It is a family show, but absolutely have to scary. I don't feel like we've had too many of those stories recently. While Blue Yonder verged on it a little bit, but it was nowhere near as full on as it used to be. But you need to have it creepy. It's Doctor Who. It's what it used to do best. There's absolutely nothing wrong with having a little bit of frightful nature in your episode. Any scary things. I think children. I think you kind of. Obviously, every child's different. And as long as as long as your child knows the difference between reality and TV and it with it being a TV show, and that's largely down to the parents' responsibility too. I would never stick I don't have children, but if I ever have children one day, I wouldn't sit there to my 7-year-old and think, hey, do you want to watch 28 Days Later? It's not going to be the movie for them.
No.
It's.
But you see, there's a lot, and I am trying to bring the thread in. Don't you worry, folks, because there's a lot of thoughts I'm trying to. As I get older, this gets harder. But John Steed, Doctor Who lost the scarce factor when the nanny state stepped in. Do you know Mary Whitehouse might have been defeated, but by God, Mary Whitehouse is nothing compared to now. But there's a lot of interesting thoughts going on, so I want to bring them in. Matt the Silent. You know how to solve the issue about Doctor Who not being allowed to be scary. Make the show a PG or 12 rated show. Now, I wanted to say there, Matt, RTD, in one of his very, very recent interviews for the Christmas episode, and I'm just going to see what Cinnamon did he hear this. He said, he's got 28 different ideas in his head of how Doctor Who could be. And he said one of the examples is Doctor Who could be very dark, late night on BBC Three. In other words, if that's an argument, he's saying Doctor Who could be dark, but it would be on a late night show on some kind of marginal channel getting no ratings. So his argument, logically speaking, is Doctor Who can no longer be dark, no longer scare, because it won't get the ratings.
But and Russell said that, did he?
He said that, yes.
That's ridiculous. That's what. So midnight now has to be on 9 p.m. on a prime time on some channel nobody knows. What? I mean, that's. I mean, I can't even get my head around that. It's just another one of his many quotes that you just think and scoff at. What? Doctor Who has notoriously had a lot of scary episodes in the past. Again, not every episode has to be, a scary one, but I can't. I'm lost for words. I really am, because I don't understand that mentality at all. What's
It,
wrong
it,
with having a scary episode? And
it,
again, I'm not saying you have to have someone's blood and guts ripped out. It is a family show, obviously. There is a line.
yeah, I mean, but
But like,
the worst it got, I mean, to me, I think the worst it got was the body horror with the Seeds of Doom, Ark in Space, that sort of thing. The body horror.
like I said, the Waters of Mars, the body
Yes,
horror it does really well, because when you see something that you can recognise and yet it looks very uncanny and it looks different and it's
and it's
zombified and they don't speak and it's
it's the
disturbing.
it's the mental. To be
So,
honest, what scared me in the end was that mental torture that in Seeds of Doom, I think it was Keeler when I always say Keeler, when he changed into a crinoid and he was tied down and he had no choice. Then you've got Ark in Space Noah. Those little bits, and that's why it's still censored today. There's still a little bit taken out, which was, I mean, I still watched it and I still loved it. Hello, I like Cinnamon saying, I'm still well rounded. I ended up teaching kids for 30 years, so nobody thought I was dangerous. But when I want to add this one on because I like David F's point here. The better Christmas specials are often the ones that start off frothy, but then grow darker or more serious as the episode plays out, like A Christmas Carol, Husbands of River Song. And I think you make a good point, David. I think that's
I
correct.
agree with yeah, like Voyage of the Damned, it starts off all fun and games and everyone's having a nice time. Again, I wouldn't, it's not scary, but it's fairly serious as a story. The fact that once those asteroids hit the ship, the fact that it's Christmas sort of takes a sort of slight back seat, doesn't it? Really, you kind of forget about it's Christmas because you see some people die in that episode. Nice character as well that the Doctor meets. I can't remember the couple. I can't remember the name, but the one that spent loads of money on lottery tickets to basically get a ticket.
Oh yes, yeah.
Those people, you sort of like those people, and when they actually do die, you generally are attached to them because like you think, oh, they were actually quite nice people. And then the sort of the riff on that about how the cocky, arrogant dealer, the horrible one lives, and the whole thing about you don't get to decide who lives and dies just because you're good or bad. It's that takes quite a serious turn, and the Doctor by the end of that episode is just so fed up. Everyone's dead. It's just no one he even likes is really alive. It's just well, as Mr. Copper, I suppose.
Well, let's try this one as an experiment, Cinnamon and the Thread, because we can be critical, but we need to be reasonable about what's acceptable in 2024. We just have to be. We can't deny that's the universe we're in. So, as Castellan Spandex says here, I love the title. Define fright and scary. And right, it's Christmas Day. We want a Doctor Who episode. There never used to be, but as you know, for the last 20 years, we almost expect it. So we've got a Doctor Who episode and we shouldn't deny it. Right. And given it's going to be on between 5 and 7 or 8 o'clock, because that seems to have been the range for Doctor Who, how frightening, how scary should it be allowed to be on Christmas Day? Because, we have to know the sensitivities now and we have to work with them. I'm not one of those who says, I'm in denial. I want to take everything now and take it back. You can't do that. That doesn't make sense. We are where we are. So I'm asking the Thread and I'm going to ask Cinnamon, how scary is it acceptable for Doctor Who to be on Christmas Day? Give us examples. So we've had Noah mentioned, we've had JWC's was talking about a condo being shot, and that was a moment. You saw, Attack of the Cybermen, if that was on Christmas Day, I suppose that wouldn't be allowed with the blood on the hands and Lytton. So what does everybody think? Cinnamon, what are your thoughts? How scary can it really go on Christmas Day? Can you think of examples that wouldn't be allowed from Doctor Who?
Well, yeah, I mean, again, like say that with Lytton's hands being crushed. I think, on a personal note, again, I would like I said in the chat, I wouldn't mind having midnight on Christmas. That's just me, though. But objectively, thinking about everybody else, but again, not every single Christmas. Again, like Void of the Damned, it's Christmas, but once the ship is attacked and all that, and it kind of takes a bit of a back seat. It's an interesting one. I can't. It's hard to.
Well, we've got some interesting ideas here to help us out. So, Tickled by Bixby, best scares use suspense, not gore. Good difference of a point here. Yes, SG. Yeah. Kondo being shot didn't bother me or my family when we watched Brain of Morbius. I have to say, I know at the time it's just exciting. However, niceties now and people. I love Castellan Spandex's point here though, because we all know Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. It could be Chitty Chitty Bang Bang scary. That's also on in the afternoons. I find it very funny what can scare you and what doesn't. So the Daleks are off the scale, as you all know in real life, when I went to the John Pertwee exhibition in the Middlesbrough Town Hall in 1973, and I could not survive it. I ran like the clappers when the Daleks moved. But Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, the child catcher, I think resonated, and it creeped me out when I was a kid and I watched it. That children, lollipops, all free. There were one or two moments in it that creeped me out. And yes, that was on in the afternoons. There were puppet shows on when I was a tiny, tiny kid. Paulus the Wood Gnome. There was a nasty witch puppet in that scared me to death. And that was supposed to be acceptable to watch. I sometimes think people are looking for the wrong things to find offence by. When actually, number one, kids, and I will say this, Cinnamon, as an English teacher, children should be scared. You mentioned your gaming background, and it's nice to have a kind of rules-bound setup. Well, that's The Hobbit. Open up the book. Open up Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. There's a map in there. Yeah. Good writers have already mapped out their world. They've thought about it and respected the reader. And I'm expecting that from a showrunner. So you could maybe, logically speaking, have Cybermen linked with Daleks. But I take Castellan's point. There's different types of scare. JWC reviews. Kondo wasn't scary. He was quite harmless. I love the jokes. Thank you. Julian, things can be creepy and atmospheric without having to be graphic and gory. I agree. Your imagination fills that in. And I say, Julian, all the time, the Pyramids of Mars, you never saw that man squashed by the mummies. You work that out from the scream afterwards, and that's better editing and better story writing, isn't it?
I mean, midnight again. You mentioned midnight for the 10th time, but that perfectly, your comment perfectly encapsulates that, because that's literally what that story is about. It's all about the tension, people being scared. Scared of what though? Because they can't see it. It's not some big monster that you look at. It's just a woman cowering in a corner, seemingly possessed. You never find out what it was. You don't really know where you are. You just sort of know it's a diamond planet, but it's very cold. It wasn't cold, was it? There's a sun that would burn you and turn you into ash. But it's a very empty planet. It's a very lonely planet. You're very isolated. You're stuck. You're scared. It's all again that you can build up the horror and the fright factor that way. Through dialogue and through the atmosphere and the tension around the place. Again that's what can be scary. Scary doesn't just mean something that goes boo, or something that's violent. There's lots of different ways to be scary.
Now, wait a minute, Brendan says, Deadman. What's acceptable in 2024, which is what I've been saying, I know, will not be acceptable possibly in 2026. Yeah. I know. This logic is dangerous. I agree.
And that's why it's ultimately flawed, because if it's not like the cutoff point is here, right? This is like the last year of the planet, so this is we've got to get it right. We're gonna keep going. Again, time, like I was saying earlier, time, and so societal beliefs and culture. In 100 years from now, they'll be saying things that we're doing now are horrible and offensive. Oh my God, could you believe those people in 2024 actually spoke like that? A bit like you might hear some skinhead from 30 years ago say some derogatory language about homosexual people. It's like we don't this mindset that we're going to get too bogged down. Oh, we've got to get everything all nice and perfect now. We can try our best, but ultimately, in years to come, it'll never be good enough because they'll always want to improve something, won't they?
We see this whole idea of, I mean, some people call it the nanny state, some people call it the Mary Whitehouse effect. You cannot make everything safe. You cannot make everything unnerving, because some people can be unnerved. Rachel says, and a lot of people say it, the Autons unnerved her because it was the plastic mannequins. But I can walk past a shop and it's a mannequin with clothes on. But I get it. Some people have arachnophobia, blah, 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 blah. You cannot protect everybody on TV or film from everything. And obviously, I find it fires the imagination. It's actually more productive. It's more positive. That actually scaring the kids within reason fires up their imagination, gets that adrenaline rush. Come on, why does everybody go on a roller coaster?
Yeah.
They want to be challenged.
Exactly. There's a reason we actually go to watch horror films in the first place and go on roller coasters. It's the thrill of it, isn't it? It's the excitement. Again, I referenced 28 Days Later. There's a new film coming out for that next year, but that's a franchise that I actually really like as well, because it's quite dark, it's quite gritty, quite realistic in terms of its approach. It does the right things. It's like you say. There's nothing wrong with scaring children to a degree. I think it's healthy. As a part of one natural development. Again, it never did me any harm. At the time, I might not have. I might have had a few nightmares about what's from Mars. But
so what about
looking back? You look back and you laugh at it. It's. I had fun. I'm glad I was scared. I'd rather be scared than bored, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, Castellan Spandex, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory has a few unnerving moments. Kids love those safe thrills. In the Willy Wonka movie, it was the that agent in the alleyway, because it was just like whoa. And yes, and Willy Wonka sometimes acted a little bit kind of. He didn't seem bothered about some of the kids' plight at some points. But it has to be wacky. Mark Anderson, with YouTube and multiple channels, Doctor Who censorship seems so pointless. Yeah, put it on at midnight. What's the blooming point of all this self-censorship nonsense? Farsight would prefer it was as scary as Talons, Pyramids, and Fenric. I remember watching Talons, for example, and you got all the mist in Victorian London, and I just hearing the foghorn. I know I'm blurring horror fan rock, but I think you heard the foghorns in Talons and Wenchine. Oh, it creeped me out. It's great, it's so cozy to be watching Doctor Who on a Saturday early evening, and the curtains might be shut, I don't know, and you're on the settee and you're in murky Victorian London. Then they find that corpse upside down on the River Thames, and that woman with no teeth goes, oh, it's fantastic. And then you have I don't know. It just takes me back. Dudley Simpson music always helped. He always had it just on point. Tickled by Bigsby. Who is at its best and scariest when a creature or situation is alien to us? Difference. I mean, there's a universal message you can sell, which is about how you can prejudge and all the rest of it. And, Star Trek did this very well, which is an alien should be judged on their deeds and all the rest of it, not how they look. Probably the scariest UK ever movie was Threads, because it was so real. Because we're talking in the thread, people are talking about, there's wars going on and everything. Yeah, isn't it funny? We want to protect, Mary Whitehouse was bothered about Doctor Who fans when actually we were being told that there might be a nuclear war. I mean, hello, come on. That Cyberman doing that is disgusting. Meanwhile, we sneakily see bits of the news and hear that there might be a nuclear war. Sometimes these adults who take offense on behalf of children haven't a clue. And isn't this the problem? This is always the problem. People take offense on behalf of others. Just make the program and risk it. RTD has made many, many TV programs now. He should basically know what makes good TV. So just do it and take the risk, unless he's now risk averse. And that's another issue. Another issue. And by the way, I'm not doing a DEI discussion today, but this was 20 years ago. You know, all these discussions that we need more representation and everything. Doctor Who's been doing it for a long time, and it was never an issue before. Why is it an issue now? I do not know.
Yeah, no one
Um,
has ever looked at this scene and thought, "Oh, look at that little girl." It's just, it was again. No one ever questioned. No one ever thought twice. I mean, I know I
no,
certainly didn't. But who actually cared that Rose was white and Mickey was black and think, "Oh, that's a mixed couple"? Did anyone actually think like that? No. We got to the point where, like, all right, the world wasn't perfect, but I generally feel this era we were getting fine, getting along fine, and now we're too cautious and now we're too sensitive to it, and I think now we make too much of an effort when we were doing just fine anyway. I really think we were. So
I do, and I have to say, as I said, I was going through all my 90s DVDs, just sorting out, and we saw old adverts and oh, you watch the adverts and you watch programs. So you watch the Blue Peter in the big old television studio at Christmas when all the kids come on, carol singing. It was always a moment because you knew you were close to Christmas. But as Jamie says, he was looking forward to as soon as that Blue Peter episode finished with the carol singers, a box of delights was on straight afterwards with Patrick Troughton. So, you know, it had its time. And of course, when you look back, it was a happier time. And actually, we were colorblind and everybody was a lot more kind of tolerant. And I have to say, go back, the evidence is there. All this nonsense saying we're such a terrible people and all the rest of it, and therefore programs have to show it. I'm sorry, no, 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 no. You know, just go and find evidence. Stop telling me tales and show me evidence. I'm flicking through all these 90s DVDs, all at random. I mean, I didn't pick adverts to watch. I just thought, do you know, it's 30 years ago. Let's look at the adverts. And you go, oh my God, oh, how different. And how Britain look, you know, just so interesting. SG here, because people are, you know, people are triggering threads here within their own head. I remember when Tomb of the Cybermen was found, Morris Barry said the good coming out of the goo coming out of the Cybermen chest was very good. Yeah, we had goo coming out of the resurrection of the Daleks, that green shaving foam. You know, I mean, now Julian, and I will take your point. It wasn't happier for everybody. Hey, I was a closeted gay as well, Julian. Hello, but I'm saying overall, I'm not speaking for myself because if I do that, I'll wreck everything. What I'm saying is, generally, society, etc., it was more harmonious. I know a lot of us were
it's a question. It's not really a question I personally could answer because, again, in the early 2000s, I would have been a kid. But speaking to a lot of other people, a lot of people, from what I can gauge from people, a lot of people generally got the sort of sense that, yeah, gays were more accepted. You know, there was less stigma towards, you know, it felt like there was less racism. A lot of people generally feel like we got to one point where things are actually going along relatively okay. Again, like I said before, it wasn't a perfect world. Of course it wasn't. It never has been and probably never will be. Well, actually, we know for a fact it won't be because human beings are fallible people and we will always make mistakes. But, you know, it just feels like there was a certain sort of era that we got where things were making pace. And then you contrast that to now where everything we do is wrong and we have to make such a monumental effort to fix everything. And it's like, well, you're trying to fix a problem or create a problem that was never really there anyway because we've moved past that.
Britain is being forced to go through some guilt period for something.
Again, what I get to say, no one watched Rose and thought, oh, a white woman's going out with a black man. You know, no one ever thought that.
No, really. but now we've been educated in the wrong way to notice things. What I was going to say is Britain is being guilted into having to think about things from their historical past. Nothing we can do. The horrible thing about history is you can't change a damn blooming thing. All you can do is go, right, okay. And I just find it funny because the Germans went through the same in the 1970s. Up to the 1970s, they were given the guilt complex about the Second World War, but they've now moved on. And I just think what's a shame is that the society's been forced to feel guilty about things they did not do. And then you are really skewering the pitch of narratives and everything. as the Zero Room says here, Brian, and you know, check him out. And he was on our panel on Sunday. He'll be on again. RTD himself wrote in Torchwood, and this is the irony of it all, isn't it? That when people want to be progressive, like he brought Davros back in season 4 and had no problem in being in a wheelchair. I know it's not a wheelchair, life support machine. And here we go. Is she having a fit? Was a line in Torchwood. Didn't bother me any. And, you know, I know Brian's background a little bit. And so, yeah, that, you know, it brings a bit of personal into it. But, yeah, you can see the bigger picture, Zero Room. I understand that. I think... God, I can watch It Ain't Half Hot Mum. I can certainly see It Ain't Half Hot Mum. I can watch Are You Being Served? I can see shows from the 1970s making being gay a joke, and they are the joke character. But I love them, and I'm not triggered by it. You know, I think we can dislocate an awful lot of things. People say...
I don't know. I'm not sure what your thoughts and previous spoke. I don't think we've had that discussion, but like the fact that a show like that exists at that time, and that was what, 99, 2000.
Yeah.
You know, on Channel 4, the fact that a show like that was even being put forward at that time doesn't that kind of show that things were progressing at a healthy rate, whereas now it's like full throttle. You know, we've got to increase the speed. You know, again, like I said, it was never perfect, of course not. And
but the thing is, I really resent it. Remember, I was in charge of children's safeguarding, and I really don't think our new kids coming through, our Doctor Who fans of the future and now, shouldn't be given guilt and shame about something they never did. It's like, you know, you're giving them original sin, so to speak. Castle and Spandex. I was a 70s kid and gay too, Brendan. This retcon of our past is disgraceful. It wasn't all racism and homophobia. Teasing then is called bullying now. It's so misleading. And, you know, yes, we might have not come out the closet, let's be honest. We didn't do that because we probably didn't feel as though it was the safest of places. But it hasn't distorted my childhood memories of having a fantastic time. Tickled by Bigsby, clearly in America. Well, you lot were out of presses until we got up in arms about pricey tea. Yeah, and I'm going to feel so guilty about it. No, I love my tea. But yeah, I mean, it's got nothing to do with me and the Boston Tea Party and all the rest of it and whatever happened with the American Revolution.
Yeah, you can get all that, you know, what was it? No taxation without representation. You can get all the representation here on the Sense Feed. You know, your opinions are welcome.
Yeah, and I like to discuss different viewpoints. I think that's the beauty of it. I don't want to be one of those channels that you can almost predict what we're going to say before we say it. There will be times when, yes, I've gone down the RTD. I'm not happy mode, but there we go. Now, just to kind of give you a chill pill for a second, we might be on today as the Bi-Generates, but on Friday at 11, it has to be earlier because I try and talk to the Aussies. We do have the Aussies Detox, just to remind you of this one. 11 on Friday. Here we go. Seen the latest Doctor Who Christmas trailer? Are you looking forward to it yet?
So where's your local dungeon, Brendan? Where's the local dungeon in your area then?
I haven't told Jamie. I don't know. I don't know. It's a shed.
What the Pearl Clutches are missing is the fact that it's so wrong is what makes it funny.
Sylvester's got so much energy that he says, "Oh, are we going to do a Q&A?" Like that's his most favourite thing.
Can we stop, please, any version of baiting fans? You know they've appointed an intimacy coordinator for season 2. And I can't imagine why you need an intimacy coordinator on Doctor Who, but it has forced me every time I do a classic review now, and I'm banking them everyone for Christmas. You'll see them. I have this item now. Just this will just hopefully make you laugh. There you go. Does that detox you, or does that toxic? I'm not running.
That did make me laugh. That's good.
Yeah, there you go. 11 on Friday with the Aussies. But there's some point. The intimacy coordinator gives me a laugh, and I must kind of shout out now. We've got banked for Christmas for you all, while I have my rest and mince pies. The Planet of the Daleks review, and we've got Robots of Death review. And I've got a lot of panelists on there. We do the intimacy watch, and we look at old Doctor Who with this intimacy coordinator eye, and we kind of go, oh, that's a bit naughty, that's a bit dangerous, and we take the mick. When Sutex sleeps, you know, I love that one. Sutex nodding off on the TARDIS again. And what would the shooty doctor do? They're all there. They're all there. Because the only way I can deal with it is to use humor as a powerful weapon to say, RTD, grow up, stop it. I love it. I mean,
that's the power of humor, isn't it? If you can sort of take something, and if you can sort of have a good time, have a laugh about it, ridicule it, take the pee out of it, it sort of gives you the power, because then you don't have this sort of reputation just being these angry people that they tarnish you with. If you just sort of look at it and think, do you know what? How stupid is that? But like, take the mick out of it. But I have a laugh about it. Intimacy coordinator on Doctor Who. Are you having a laugh?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Well,
I mean,
I think that's the spoiler that the Daleks are back, because obviously Ncuti Gatwa said he would twerk to the Daleks, and the Daleks have made a claim on the work standards and everything, saying they're felt compromised, and what was done with their
Daleks always made me a happy boy. Yeah.
They might have gone mad because they might have said, you know, the sink plunger was played with too much by the 15th Doctor, and they are offended, and so they have actually had it cancelled. Zero Room here. There's only one reason for an intimacy coordinator in Doctor Who, and that reason doesn't even belong in Doctor Who. And there we have it. You know, it's about love, loss, and humour. Bang! You've got it all
degree
wrong.
of the intimacy as well. If you know, we know that Ruby's going to be coming back, and that she's going to have a boyfriend, and if it's just something like a close scene between them, potentially, you know, kissing or something, that's fine. But if it's anything like, you know, especially with how touchy-feely and very hands-on and very cuddly and very lovey-dovey that this Doctor is, and when you hear the words intimacy coordinator, I do think of like you know, when you see, I think someone said it in the thread earlier, two 15th Doctors. So we've got a multi-Doctor story. There you go. Of two Doctors. I mean, the shooting Doctor, another version of him. Is he going to like make out with himself? He seems to like himself.
That's and there's the essence of narcissism. So
is
just to finish off,
is he going to be able to hold himself back?
Christmas Day, I'm taking you back to 2006. Christmas Day, it was on at 7 o'clock for an hour. The Runaway Bride. I've just shown you screenshots from the trailer. There was jeopardy. It was serious. The fun bits were done in proportion. You had creative robot masks and all the rest of it. It had fun, but it was serious, and there was jeopardy, and it was dangerous. And I just wish that when I look, because I was trying to work out why Doctor Who fans, I always have to say that, are finding when they see the Joy to the Worlds trailer, they're saying they're not quite getting it. They're not feeling thrilled. I don't feel thrilled. And I think I accidentally came upon the answer, because only 20 years ago, it's actually less, isn't it? It was so different. And I think, to me, the BBC took it a lot more seriously too. Thank you to the thread and everybody. That's been busy, busy, busy. My God, I try and pick a time of day thinking it'll be a more straightforward show. But maybe it's just great that everybody's joining us, and we all need to kind of say what we say. It's been great to have you back again, Cinnamon. We're lads from the same town, and obviously we're a bit peeved that last night our football team was rubbish. And you were there, I know. So I know. So has it felt like you've never been away, Cinnamon?
Not really, no. Honestly, I've been looking at the chat, and I've seen some new faces. I've seen some people say that they've only been watching for weeks, so they probably won't know me. But yeah, it's I was a regular here. You know, I've always enjoyed my time here, and it's being back on it today. It genuinely feels like I've not been away. It's very weird, isn't it? I know people say that all the time, don't they? Like, oh, I've never been away, but like, no, it's good. I've enjoyed it. It's been a good. We've been going nearly 2 hours now, haven't we? Nearly, you know,
Yeah, we said we'd do an hour. My detox on Friday, I call it the detox hour. It's always 2. Oof,
I was going to say that, yeah. Like, wasn't Brendan saying like 60 minutes? Like, yeah.
Yeah, I was,
you know,
and I can
we had a
count.
few issues when we earlier trying to get buddy on the thing, and
But we're so respectful. We're so respectful of the thread that it's no good getting you all on, and then we say, right, we're gonna go in now. Castellan Spandex, we are going now. I've got to get ready for the detox on Friday, and my plans for the Daleks review that I'm recording tomorrow, but it'll be on over Christmas. You know, I'm trying to serve. You get spreading the word, folks, please. Let's build this channel. The community is lovely. I can't knock it. I absolutely love this community. People are so friendly in our thread and thoughtful and insightful and spot on. Love it. Every time I come on, I'm thinking, I hadn't thought of that. So it's been great. Cinnamon, obviously, we call you Cinnamon. Your name's Brandon. You're from the borough. Cinnamon Toast Crunch, your channel. You've got your own little channel, haven't you? And if you want to give it a shout out, your own little channel.
Yeah, I'm very small but very humble. It's like I say, it's a hobby. That's all it ever should be. Isn't it? If you don't enjoy what you're doing, then what's the point? So it's in anything really. I can cover Doctor Who. I also upload gaming videos. It's literally anything that I feel is worthy of going up. I put up usually. I am planning on doing a breakdown of a trailer that's just come out. I have to get on that at some point before it's too late. I did actually promise. I don't know if I did promise, but I did say that I was going to do reviews of season 1, and that never came. But you know, things happen. You know, shoot me now. But yeah, so same name really, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. If you're even interested in any sort of things like that, feel free to have a look. It'd be great.
Well, and before we go, because some people have just joined us, but let me just show you this. I've got so much I could talk about all the time. Did you see this YouGov poll?
Yes, I did indeed. Goodness me!
Well,
I mean, I'd be interested to see who's actually been asked, because that's the thing with polls. It's very
people did say Shooty Gatwa's not on that list, so that's not fair.
Yeah.
I mean, you haven't got them all on. But for the ones who are on, just before we go, just to give everybody
in fairness to it just says, doesn't it, asked between May 2018 and October 2018.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then how is anyone putting Jodie Whittaker 7th? Because we would have only just gotten her series with them, wouldn't we? Among British adults asked between May 2018 and October 20. Am I having a moment here? Am I missing something, or is that people ranking
you've got to remember that every time you see, it's hard. If you did an opinion poll, obviously in 1974, John Pertwee would probably be top. Tom Baker's a moot point because it's early days. And it's that kind of thing. And memories, they don't fade. But the point is, if it's working, we tend to like the current one. And then you have your favorite from the past. And now it's a 61-year-old program. I know this is from a couple of years ago. You will always have people who have just joined Doctor Who. And therefore, they will defend their own era. You joined during the David Tennant era, so there's a version. I mean, if I asked you now, Cinnamon, because this is the Bi-Generates, and we're supposed to disagree apparently, but we seem to prove it wrong. Cinnamon, out of that list there, including Shooty Gatwa, if you did that, who is your favorite Doctor? And let's just see where you fit into this. And I'll ask everybody in the thread before we go. Who is your favorite Doctor?
David Tennant.
So you agree with that, but and that's because possibly you joined and found Doctor Who during the David Tennant era. I joined Doctor Who when it was John Pertwee, and obviously I've got a horrible battle in my head. Is it John Pertwee? Is it Tom Baker? Maybe because of Tom Baker being through my whole childhood, it probably will end up being Tom Baker. But that's the same answer to you, isn't it? It's your childhood thing.
Yeah, even though I think I technically caught on towards the end of the Tennant era, and so if anything, I actually experienced the whole of Matt Smith era really from start to finish. I can't even really. It's that far back, honestly. I can't even remember when my jumping on point really was. But yeah, it is true. Whatever your first experience is, and I've always said that with Geordie fans, if you start the show with her, you're obviously going to have a natural. You know, your first one. You know, it's the same for anything in life as well. If you watch a movie, you know, let's just say like, oh, the second one. Let's say there's a movie, and everyone loves the first one, and everyone hates, or most people hate the second one. But you saw the second one first, and you love the second one. I mean, that's happened to me. Okay, there's loads of films or games that I've played where I actually prefer the second one to the first one because that was the one I experienced first. So, you know, there is always that element to it, isn't there? So, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's to be fair, it makes sense because you see David Tennant, Christopher Eccleston, Tom Baker, a lot of those, and Matt Smith as well. Those are more recent ones. Again, barring Capaldi, who was a little bit further down, but you know, Tennant would have been obviously relevant.
I know,
you
but
know, he's relevant anyway. Christopher Eccleston is relevant.
But with everything, there's problems with it. I mean, Paul McGann is 10th. Now he had one story. Now other people judging him on the Doctor Who movie or Big Finish, and this is when it all goes all timey wimey. Now I'm just showing that to kind of reward everybody who stuck with us. That there's more we could talk about, but there isn't enough time. Cinnamon, thanks for hanging around. Thank you for being on again. And of course, hopefully I'll have a chat with you later about, well, we'll ask the thread. Would you like the bi-generates on next Wednesday? It's up to you. Obviously, you know, we hopefully have done a service for you. But anyway, thank you to the thread. Thank you to Cinnamon. I'm going to have a lie down now. No, but here we go. See you later. Friday,